So I realise I'm jumping ahead a bit because I said I'd put this episode to a vote between Tron Legacy and Jurassic Park, but I thought, why not actually try and make one of these episodes current? So, with XCOM 2 coming out in a few days, I thought why not look back on one of the more memorable scenes from XCOM Enemy Within. Remember that scene in XCOM Enemy Within when the aliens just attack your base directly? And one of the most effective parts of this scene is that it just stems from nowhere, there's no build-up, no foreshadowing, it just happens. And the scene begins by seamlessly transitioning from gameplay straight into a cinematic cutscene, emphasizing that feeling of just losing control, or rather in this instance circumstances being completely beyond your control. I mean, look at this. You scan the globe as you would before any other mission, before all control is just revoked from you as the cinematic begins, and then all the other characters also just share the same kind of panic and confusion as the player does.
What the hell?
Your base gave a sense of comfort. Combat never happened unless you as a player directly initiated it. Otherwise, your base was completely disconnected from any sort of incoming threat. And now all you can do is panic, as the one place you believed to be safe, the one place you never had to consider fighting for, is now directly under attack. As if this sudden twist of gameplay wasn't enough, there is the implication of potential consequences. I mean, this is your complete base of operations after all. Because unlike a standard combat mission, if you lose this fight, that's it. You are fighting for everything you have. You are fighting, in essence, for a chance to actually finish the game. Compare this to some games where the stakes are forcefully raised by placing a character in danger that we have no investment in, that we do not care about. It's artificial and doesn't add anything to the context of story or gameplay. It threatens to become tedious. XCOM, by comparison, whilst it does have a plot contextualizing these missions, the real story comes from those missions you have with your soldiers. And now your base is directly under attack. The stakes are higher than ever. Your base is what has allowed you to persevere through the game. All that time you've spent building, all that money you've spent on resources, all the effort you've put into building the most optimal base to allow you to push forward to victory, all of that ready to collapse from one bad mistake. On top of this, missions in XCOM usually take place in a handful of environments that you gradually become familiar with throughout the game. You learn the layouts, you learn the most optimal positions to put your soldiers, flank points, and so on. Your base, by comparison, you've never had to fight in before. The environment is completely unfamiliar to you, leaving you completely vulnerable to attacks you just could not foresee. So now what you have is a sudden assault thrown on you from absolutely nowhere, in an environment you are completely unfamiliar with, in a situation you are completely unprepared for, where one mistake can ruin everything, and it's nightmarish. And if you're anything like me, and I certainly hope you're not, terrible at strategy games and prone to panicking in desperate situations, well, this scene then becomes stressful. Another aspect I like about the scene, purely from a visual standpoint, is the cutscene itself. I like its pacing, as it builds from tense confusion with intense close-up shots, to watching the base be torn apart, to the camera then picking up momentum, almost flying around the base. I like these crash zooms too. I feel like in these two instances they're a good way of emphasizing impact or emotional intensity. There's a lot of nuance to their timing. I mean, look at this. That looks like it legitimately hurts. We also get to see a bit of Bradford's character here. I mean, his main role in the game is just to fuel the player with exposition whilst looking into the camera and being all handsome with a strong chin as he does it.
I'm Central Officer Bradford. My role in this project is twofold: providing tactical support for our field operations, and keeping you briefed on the current situation.
So to go from the static professional to smacking one of his own men to the floor with a pistol he keeps hidden away is rather jarring. And look at this, I like this. Trying to interrogate a soldier who has clearly been taken over by the alien threat. There's no going back for this guy, no reasoning with him. Yet Bradford still won't pull that trigger. This isn't necessarily what I would call rich characterization, but it does show us a lot about Bradford's character in one intense moment.
Answer me!
Then comes that line. That line you do not want to hear.
We have a breach!
The music builds and the camera flies through what has now become an unwanted combat zone before stopping at the main door, and as it opens, the sounds of an approaching disaster just echo through. I love this scene. It's a great example of all the investment we put into gameplay being directly threatened with the potential outcome of losing everything we have worked so hard to achieve. All introduced seamlessly from gameplay into a rather slickly directed cutscene. I will never forget having to first deal with the situation. I made so many mistakes, I panicked, but in the end it was such a great feeling when I managed to persevere and save my base after numerous failed attempts in which I had to restart the game again. Definitely wasn't frustrating at all. But nonetheless, here's hoping that XCOM 2 will provide us with a moment just as memorable.
What the hell?
Sir! Internal systems are shutting down all over HQ!
This is Central. Security status red. Repeat. What have you done? Answer me!
Sir! We're picking up movement near the outer perimeter. Multiple sensors have been tripped. We have a breach!